Let me be very clear. The scenes of chaos at the Capitol do not represent who we are. What we are seeing is a small number of extremists dedicated to lawlessness. This is not dissent, it's disorder. It borders on sedition, and it must end. Now. The behavior we witnessed at the US Capitol is entirely un-American. This was not a peaceful protest, this was an insurrection. These individuals should be prosecuted to the fullest extent. But I know this is not our America, and I know we will get through this dark time together. This is a national tragedy, and it is not who we are as a nation. Having observed elections and troubled democracies worldwide, I know that we the people can unite to walk back from this precipice to peacefully uphold the laws of our nation, and we must. We join our fellow citizens in praying for a peaceful resolution so our nation can heal and complete the transfer of power as we have for more than 2 centuries. Are you all following along? Because for me and Candace, it's the way a country that kidnapped and enslaved human beings keeps saying, this is not who we are, for me. If white people inciting violence to uphold white supremacy isn't America, then please tell me what is. Welcome to Radical Thought. So this actually wasn't going to be my first videos, but the events of January 6th will definitely be in the history books, so they warranted a whole video. Welcome to my first video. 1776. This was tweeted out by a member of Congress who, during the attempted coup, also tweeted out the location of Nancy Pelosi, who is the Speaker of the House. As many of us know, 1776 is the year that American colonies declared independence from Britain, and it was during the American Revolution. America was then born, and we all lived happily ever after thanks to the Bill of Rights that was established about 15 years later. Wait, no. Black people were still enslaved, so it wasn't until the Civil War and Reconstruction amendments when we all lived out the American dream. No, because then there was Jim Crow and lynching, so it was actually after the Civil Rights Act. And nope, because then we had the war on drugs and mass incarceration, so it wasn't until we had our first black president America was great. Nope. Well, y'all get the point. Back to 1776. See, white people fantasize about the American Revolution and really any war after that, besides Vietnam, because dying for white supremacy is honorable. It's a feature of white power. See it as a blood sacrifice. And 1776 is so impactful for understanding what's happening today, because it's the founding fathers' glaring hypocrisy that sets the foundation for American whiteness and racism. We recognize Thomas Jefferson as the author of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. But what did Thomas Jefferson, a man who owned enslaved human beings, considered them inferior, raped one of them, Sally Hemings, for decades, what did he mean when he said all men are created equal and that this country is theirs? As he wrote during the war, enslaved black people were fighting and had been fighting for many years their own wars on colonial plantations. They were uprising and running away. And Jefferson, a big slave owner, along with Boston delegate John Adams, saw that this was happening. Quick fun fact, Thomas Jefferson and John Adams both died on July 4th, 1826, the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. During the writing of the Declaration, Adams' wife asked him to make sure women were also treated equally in a new nation, or there will be a rebellion. But he simply laughed and replied that Native Americans, women, children, and Negroes are only growing discontent due to our, and I'll quote, put this in quotations, our struggle. So I hope it's clear that 1776 was in fact a revolutionary moment for freedom, but the founders made it clear that it was freedom for white men and white supremacy. And ever since 1776, that struggle that John Adams mentioned, our struggle, continued for white men. But instead of it being waged out against the British Crown, it is waged out against those considered unpatriotic, the rebellious others in America who fight every day for their power to be free. For some examples of this, we can look at the Reconstruction era. Reconstruction is a time period in history we should all be aware of. W.E.B. Du Bois described Reconstruction as a time period in history where the slave briefly went free instead of a brief moment in the sun. And the reason why that moment was brief was due to that struggle John Adams had mentioned, the struggle of white supremacy. Reconstruction lasted from 1865 to 1877. This is the time period after the Civil War. See, the Union, the North, had sent their troops down south to basically keep the Confederates at bay. And during this period, black people flourished. I mean, absolutely thrived. We have yet to hold as many political offices today as we did then. Like, we was running for everything. We was voting. We was buying land, buying property. We was really doing our thing. Black power for real. White people was not having that. In fact, let's go to 1874 New Orleans. John McHenry. He had lost the gubernatorial election in 1872, but he refused to concede. So he set up his own government. 1874, a ship came in with guns for the White League. The White League was basically like the military version of the KKK. Anyways, guns come in. The feds was like, nah, y'all can't have these guns. So McHenry was like, wait a minute now. You're infringing on our God-given constitutional Second Amendment right. You're trampling on the white man's freedom. You're hindering our struggle. So they mobbed up, went to City Hall, and overthrew the government. And they literally held full power for a couple days till the feds came back and was like, all right, playtime's over. I mean, literally, they didn't get in any type of trouble. No violence. Feds came in and just restored power. That was it. They even have a whole monument dedicated to this event that didn't get removed until a couple of years ago. And mind you, in that same city 8 years prior, a mob led by the mayor had massacred hundreds of black people at a constitutional convention. They literally shot up this building that black voters was in and like killed almost all of them. Just kept shooting and just massacred all of them in that same city 8 years prior. Fast forward to 1898 in Wilmington, North Carolina. See, Wilmington at that time was like Atlanta. It was a thriving black city. It was a city where black people were going to and had migrated to, and it became majority black. They had a multiracial government, but they also had an election coming up. So this group of white men called the Secret Nine, white elite, white businessmen, they conspired to steal the election and reclaim that power. And they succeeded. But there was resistance, especially by this one man, the publisher of the black newspaper in that city at that time. He wrote these articles against their white supremacist rhetoric. And literally the day after they won the election, they burned down his newspaper building and killed every black person, almost every black person they found in the city. They went to the streets and just murdered everyone. And Wilmington was never the same. But there are so many similar stories of this happening during that time period, because whenever white supremacy is threatened, as it was during Reconstruction, it will and can respond with unimaginable violence. And I say all this to say, what happened last week should not catch us by surprise. White supremacists know the power they have in this country and will go to any lengths to protect it. That is America. I hope y'all took something away from this video. If you did, please leave a like. Like I said, this was supposed to be my first video, but we rolled with it. I want to make more videos about concepts I discussed, such as violence, whiteness, race, all that, etc. So subscribe. Please leave a comment if you learned anything, have any questions, any concerns, any topics you'd like to talk about, anything. And if you watch this till now, if you watch this whole video, man, shout out to you. Go ahead and comment that as well. I appreciate you. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Please stay tuned. Got more stuff coming. All power to you.